Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anime-Zing Radio without our normal host, Doug, who is currently at work. I'm your acting host, Angela Rose, and with me is Darren Starling.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting show because haven't we only ever done one show without him and he just joined out of nowhere shortly afterwards?
Exactly. And before I forget, let's uh, do that whole shout out to our sponsors, Home Circle Media, for all of the latest and greatest in anime
Mhm.
gear, homecirclemedia.com, and also Casey Fox for cosplay art and photography. Check her out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And also, if you are in the Raleigh, North Carolina area and you need lawn care done, check out Darren's Lawn Care, uh, Triple S Lawn Care on Facebook.
Yep. I will not disappoint, I promise you.
All right. And our guest is running a little bit late, or technical difficulties, or something of the like. So,
For
where
the
did.
next for the next foreseeable future, you get to listen to us two ramble on for the first time ever.
So, have you seen any of the news? I suppose I'll start with the obvious. Have you watched any of Spy Family this season?
Just the first episode.
Ah,
So yeah, I have not watched a single episode of anime until today, but due to me being tired from work this afternoon, I did not watch anything until about 45 minutes ago. So, and I picked The Eminence in Shadow season 2 as the one to start with instead of Spy Family.
eh, that's fair. Uh, Eminence and Shadows not one I've actually watched. It's on my I'll get to it eventually list.
Which is impressive considering it's an isekai. So I'm proud of you.
The description at one point I think whenever season one dropped towards the end of the season, you guys kind of sold me on it by the description, and then I got busy and it went on my anime watch list, and then I just kind of forgot about it and got too busy.
That's natural. I mean, unfortunately, I have several shows that were delayed last season that I never resumed. Uh, Kubo, well, no, wait, was it from last season or the season before? I think it was the season before. Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, The Misfit of Demon King Academy season 2. I
Mm-hmm.
know Ayakashi Triangle, which was meh, but it got put on hold. I can't fully remember if it was resumed or not.
Near was
Um,
another one from that
me,
season that got delayed to the point where I forgot about it.
yep, that was another one that I wanted to watch and didn't.
I watched the first 4 episodes, I think.
And what was your opinion on it in comparison to the source material, which was the game, right?
I never played the game, so I went in basically knowing who the two characters were and not much else. But according to friends who obsessed over the game, it's a really good adaptation. However, it's the style is very odd.
In terms of animation, art design.
Um, it's a mix of art designs. Um, Basically, there's like little intermissions and end scenes that are done basically in basically as puppets.
Okay. And let's see, who was the studio behind the Near anime again? Was it Matt? Wasn't it Madhouse?
I'm looking that up because I think you're right, but I'm not 100% certain, and I don't want to be wrong. I apparently I watched 5 episodes. No, the studio was actually A1 Pictures, according to my anime list.
Impressive.
And case in point, episode 1 dropped January of 2023, and it finished in July.
Yep, because lovely delays due to the thing that is never going away.
Yep.
But definitely one of those animes I saw a lot of cosplay of over the years and never really got into the material. I just like seeing the numerous cosplays at many of the conventions
Oh yeah.
I got to attend.
Oh yeah. No, 2B was a very, very popular cosplay.
Almost to the point it seemed like we had phases. One year it was Madoka Magica, next year it was My Hero, then one next year it was Nier, then next year Demon Slayer. I mean, like every year they always pick like that one anime to base most of their cosplays on, or it's just something you see everywhere.
Yep. And it's funny because you see there's always the staples. Like for a long time, one of the staples was League of Legends.
Hmm.
And then it went from, I would argue, it went directly from League of Legends to Genshin.
And I can see that. And it never ceases to amaze me. There's an amount of cosplay out there where you think you know the character, but they're actually from a video game and they just look very similar to characters you actually know.
Yep, there's a lot of, and for me, because for a long time I did a lot more JRPG video games than anime. It was the other way around, where I would assume it's a video game character, and nope, it's just an anime character that looks identical.
So it was the opposite for you.
Yep. But but no, just over the years, over the years, I don't know about anywhere else, but there a lot of the JRPG video games. There's always been a lot of cosplay from them.
Agreed.
And while there's always going to be some cosplay from popular franchises like Final Fantasy or Nier, for example, it's seeming like there's less and less.
I can kind of agree to that, but you also got to remember the amount of video games coming out in comparison to the amount of anime coming out is like shifted over the years. Like,
Agreed, 100%. Or maybe not the amount that's released, but the amount that's accessible here.
true, because in Japan they have way more than whatever makes it overseas, and then of course in China you have your cheap copies of everything. On top of that,
Yep.
and not just China.
And in China and Japan, not all the American stuff makes it over right away. And it always surprises me what does.
Oh yeah.
And on that note, fun little trivia bit that I learned over the weekend, is that in Japan actually made a Spider-Man series,
Hmm.
live action. because they got the rights and did something with it, and apparently from an American perspective, it was apparently bad.
Well, to be fair, when we try to do the Japanese version, a live action of Japanese stuff, 9 times out of 10, we do just as bad in their eyes.
I know. I'm, we go. One Piece is kind of the exception.
Yep. Even though I haven't seen the live action for it, I've seen enough clips out of it that I can agree. Like they actually, it's like this one they actually tried.
I loved it, and but we've that's a thing we've discussed a lot. Live action adaptations of anime, for whatever reason, more often than not, they're we have such high expectations and end up disappointed.
Yep. Because we're coming from an unrealistic set of expectations because of everything that is possible on a screen versus being acted out in the real world. It's
And
not as easy to replicate.
and CGI and special effects and amazing stunt work can
Can
only
only
do
take
so
you so
much.
far.
And the technology and the technology within uh, 2D and 3D animation has just made leaps and bounds, and you can do so much.
Yep. Actually, in the special you missed last night, me and Doug went in depth on video games to anime adaptations and vice versa, and of course, got lost on a tangent on just how much the graphics have improved for video games in particular from the late 90s to today.
Mm-hmm. Oh
The
yeah.
the anime has actually stayed fairly consistent over the years if you really think about it, and has just kind of gradually improved. Meanwhile, the animation and gaming has just come leaps and bounds.
I think there's also the subset of what's the word I'm looking for? The There's a certain style that's very that's very not as realistic, very stylized, that gets used in certain types of games as well as certain animes. And while it's probably technically advanced, it's made to look like it's not.
I can see that.
Um, like a lot of the Nintendo games that are out right now, well, you can definitely see the evolution of the art. Uh,
Most Most definitely. Even though it's something we bring up constantly, Pokemon, what the mainline games was the great example that we used last night because of how it went from pixelated characters in the late 90s to clear images like 2002, 2003. Like the whole gameplay just changed drastically in 2003, and it became so much more crisp, clear. And then you move on to the Nintendo DS, and it just got better and better and better. And then around 2011, 2012, it changed again and really peaked and started to peak. And
and
then we get to the early 2020s with games like Pokemon Legend Arceus or all those open world games. And it's amazing how realistic they've gotten.
but at the same time, was it? I want to say it was Pokemon Sword. I could be mistaken. One of the more recent ones. It's
Sword and Shield were the first two on the Switch, I think.
it's very it is it's still, while it's definitely It's definitely still got that stylized art, but it's definitely far more realistic than the previous generations.
Exactly. And what really changed it was with the introduction of the 3DS, I think. Um, Being able to switch to that 3D mode, it actually was kind of cool. I mean, I still have my 3DS. Um,
I never had one, but the handhelds were never really my thing.
and ironically, last night a system got brought up that I completely forgot about, but at the time I think was almost more advanced than the Nintendo lineup, and that was the PSP.
And the PSP, unfortunately, well, depending on how you look at it, unfortunately, just didn't do as well as it should have in the States because there weren't as many games made for it
Fuck.
because at that point Sony and Microsoft were making games that were too advanced for that kind of a system.
And I can get that. And kind of going through the list last night, because remember, a lot of animes have games that were based on them, but unfortunately, most of them never made it outside of Japan. And a lot of those games were for the PlayStation. Like, for instance, there was a To Love Ru game that we found out about last night. It was done for the PSP, and I'm pretty sure there was also the PS2. There was a High School DxD game that was developed for the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita. There was all
And
kinds of
then
stuff.
and it's there's a I ended up watching an anime either last season or the season before, uh, Trials of Cold Steel, that I didn't know until a couple episodes in that it was based on a video game franchise because the video game franchise was not as popular in the States. I'd never heard of it.
Hmm.
And turns out a buddy of mine, this came up in conversation, and he'd gone back and found a lot of the old games and is slowly playing his way through them. Didn't know there was an anime and went, "Ooh, I'll have to watch that."
And
Um, but you can definitely tell that the anime was based on it's a standalone story, but you can definitely tell it's based on a video game because of how certain things play out, and then also it kind of starts you in the middle of in seemingly like the middle of a story, and you kind of get an info. Episode one is largely an info dump. Sometimes you can tell when animes are based on video games and vice versa. Other times you really can't.
and speaking of the really can't, Doug learned something last night that one of the animes he recently started and was catching up on was based on a video game. And you want to take a guess as to which one that was?
Which one?
Uma Musume Pretty Derby, the horse racing one.
The horse racing anime is based on a video game.
Yes. If you actually look in the credits, I know you haven't watched it, but Cygames is the developer behind the game. And Cygames is a big deal in Japan.
Oh boy. Apparently, our PlayStation blue screen.
So yeah, that and also not only is it based on a video game, but of course in the show they are actually playing out real rivalries based on the actual horses that existed in real life.
I mean, I do not remember what came first. Sword Art Online actually has video games as well. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember which came first. I never actually played the games. I know of them, but have only actually seen the anime.
And on another note, there's something else Japan has that wasn't really is big here that most people don't think about. There's multiple different types of video games. And in Japan, a very common one is a visual novel. And that's what there are a lot of anime based off of.
Visual novels and light novels, yeah.
Yep. The light novels are actually like a novel, and the visual novels are the playthrough version where you get to select this route, that route, depending on your answer to predetermined questions.
It's
And
basically a it's basically a visual choose your own adventure.
basically, and you can get the bad ending, you could get the good ending, you could get the secret ending, and you have these people. There was actually an anime about this. Do you remember an anime called The World God Only Knows?
The name sounds familiar. I have not actually seen it.
Basically, do you have the main character, the guy? He is a master of these visual novels. He will complete the route for every single girl in the game, period, end of story, to completion. And his grades are so perfect, he'll do it in the middle of class.
Interesting.
And he gets partnered with a reaper, and he basically has to make these girls in real life fall in love with him in order to save them, I believe. And it's an interesting series. They got 3 seasons, so
Interesting. Yeah, no, a friend of mine who, an artist friend of mine, at one point was working on designing a visual novel. Um, Ended up running into a lot of difficulties, and then she just got frustrated because it was also one of those the visual novels as a whole are not popular here.
and you know what's funny? My friend in I believe he's in Switzerland or Singapore, I forget which. He learned to speak and read Japanese by playing visual novels with the hiragana translator and eventually learned it enough to where it became natural to him. And now about the only thing he needs translated is kanji.
Interesting.
He had the translator pulled up while playing through these games for so long that he learned Japanese. And he would regularly post his processes throughout on his Facebook feed. So there would be times my Facebook feed was blown up with updates from his playthrough of these games.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it was always interesting seeing the situations the games would put him in, and also the cute girls behind them and what they would do for the main character, or if the main character who sometimes would end up dead because of the choices he made.
There are certain video games that I will actually play with the audio set to Japanese with the subtitles turned on.
And
because
I can understand why.
because for me personally, I find that it adds something to it. That being said, for a very combat oriented game, no, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm just going to use the English audio.
And remind me, have you seen Shuffle?
No.
That was also based on a visual novel.
And and with some of the earlier stuff, without literally deep diving into research, you'd never know. Nowadays, websites like My Anime List, all of that's right there if you know where to look.
Yep. And I love how my anime list has expanded their database from being an anime database to now there's a couple of cartoons in there. Then they expanded on into the manga database. Now they have a separate section for light novels. And if I'm not mistaken, they have visual novels too.
I don't know. I only have looked at the anime and manga tabs, and the manga tab is 9 times out of 10 trying to do too much at once on my phone and accidentally pressing while trying to filter for something else, accidentally pressing the manga tab and then being very confused.
Oh no! I had to unplug, plug it back in, and then finally
But
started booting up.
That's
again.
terrifying.
And it says restoring storage.
And we have our first comment in the chat.
Jesus
Nico
Christ.
and Koshi
How far
Game
back
Playing
did you get
Idiots
from?
are saying they've got to check it out.
During the combat.
Oh wow.
I had just
But given how many games we've brought up and how much
okay.
content we've
That's
brought up,
pretty
I don't
good.
know what they're talking about, what they're
Me neither.
referencing.
That's a scary. Lizzie looks pretty.
Because
Yeah.
while
Your black
we've
spice.
brought up a lot of different content, we've actually stayed on a topic.
Outside of that,
Wow. Well, that's what happens without the shiny object syndrome.
I know, right? And we've got no Ross in the chat. We've got no Doug,
Mario.
no Mario.
HH. And I wonder if Doug forgot to share on his thing because are you friends with Mario and them? And did you share that we were going live tonight?
Oh God, no, I did.
That works.
The answer to all of that is no.
That would probably be why our chat room is empty.
Well, you know what? We're gonna do something right now.
I know that Peter like slowly goes.
Hey,
on
come
like
listen to us ramble on while we still wait for our guests.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't mean like it was. I just meant like
something was going to happen in the story.
Okay.
It was
No.
super dark.
no. I just meant like Peter goes from because he was so happy-go-lucky, and it's like he's gonna.
Oh,
say,
yeah. In the
Facebook.
meantime, it kind of feels nice to be able to reiterate what we were talking about last night and actually have your input on the topic.
Yeah, but
Yeah, no. Last night
Spider-Man
we were.
2, like,
Last night
Spider-Man,
it
it's
was
all
play
Lucy.
catch up with all of our with all of our not anime content.
Here's the wild thing.
Wow.
Because going away for a weekend and then being busy for a week play catch up means we've got 2 weeks worth of content to catch up on. All right.
Yeah, I remember that from the last game.
So, why did we find this now a lab under the city? And it just took all the time.
Oh yes, I cannot wait. Remind me, have you heard of the group Merryweather Comics?
I know.
Merryweather Comics. I feel like I do know. I feel like I've heard of that, but what have they?
Have you heard of the Goth Girl and the Jock?
It's a relatively
No.
comics, everything's
Very cute story. They're coming out with a new series called The Nerd and the Jock, where you got a male nerd stuck in detention with a female jock.
It was like, oh,
I kind of love that conceptually.
That they glitched under the world, and I found a new Craven hideout. That's not.
And the guy, there's only 2 chapters out, but the guy seems to be acting like a toonie.
Oh, well, that's where Rhino is.
Saturday, no.
Yeah, he just
And the girl's weirded out, of course.
Yeah.
But given how the Goth Girl and the Jock went, I'm very interested to see how this goes.
In this, apparently, they're brothers, Chameleon and
Come on.
Raven.
Oh,
Facebook, cooperate, please.
very interesting. That looks like a kaiju battle, by the way, just from this shot. Because it's just like, I see a city.
And Nico, where is NecoCon again? What section of the States are you in?
Me, I'm in the
I have the end.
NecoCon
It's
is
mine.
I feel like you could have stopped that.
where? Okay, I don't know where that is.
Yeah, it's just straight up Godzilla. Yeah, 67%.
Hampton, Virginia. Oh, you're actually closer to me.
I'm like, I think I might be able to go for it. But I think
Yeah,
I might
Necocon
go
is
for Sunday when I'm
Virginia.
seeing them next.
I've been looking.
Oh, his tail. Oh my god.
Do it.
I've been looking at
God,
different conventions.
Son of a bitch.
I also I did a
Basically, the suit won't go back
Facebook
together.
straw poll
No.
amongst
So
my
even
friend
sad.
amongst my friends to see, because I have a lot of friends kind of everywhere,
Oh,
for
this one?
AnimeCon recommendations, and multiple people actually suggested I check out Anime Central out in
So,
Chicago.
Gave him the suit.
Uh,
Or, well, really, the suit
But
kind of did it.
we'll see.
Yeah.
I've
All I
heard
know
good
is
things
from what
about
I've seen from
NecoCon
trailers, someone else.
because I have friends down in Maryland area who typically go.
So it's like,
Okay.
That's probably
And what is the focus of the con? Is it
that's my
mostly a that theme? Tongue twister. Is it a cat themed convention, or is it more of an anime cat themed convention, or what's the context behind it?
This it looks like this year's theme is Little Witch. This year's is Little Witch Catademia.
Well, Little Witch Academia was a popular series and one Doug thoroughly enjoyed, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm
So
inclined to agree.
So a Neko take on that might actually be kind of cute.
The image,
Yeah.
you know what? The image from their website's actually adorable.
Yeah. And
It
About to
looks
say,
like.
put it on screen.
All right, will do. Present. Share screen.
Speaking of which, why didn't you set the background character to a different thing that suits your taste? Kind of throw Doug off his game. Oh, no, wait. You didn't set up the show, did you?
One, I did not set up the show. Doug did. And two, I had to change out an HDMI cable literally a few minutes before you jumped in.
I was kind of wondering why you were standing up when I logged on.
Because we were making sure my cords worked and I didn't go black.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your cords worked and you didn't go flat.
No, basically my monitor was kind of flickering.
I was like, come on, no.
No, I was trying to make a musical joke there.
But yeah, no, NecoCon I've heard good things about.
They did that in the second one.
Although the announcement is that one of their guests will not be appearing.
Someone else and said, fuck you, I'm going out. And then he went to a rave.
Well, did I mention we did bring up last week the fact that I have an unexpected convention that I'm probably going to try to attend at the very beginning of the year, right?
The Anime Raleigh, like the first full weekend in January.
Yes, which, like I said, is very unusual, and that's like an off season for conventions around here.
So it's like we're just seeing.
I know. But for the South, I don't know how far. Oh, you're a ways from Orlando.
Yeah, like 10 to 12 hours.
I don't remember.
Significantly closer than I am, but still. But we were looking up the dates for Holiday Matsuri, and that's middle of the week. That's a Wednesday through Friday convention this year.
Oh wow. You know, I'm not going to lie. A middle of the week convention would actually be kind of nice for the simple fact I'd be able to get out of work and there'd probably be far less attendees because of the fact many people wouldn't be able to get off their jobs. That's why I like going to places like the fair when it rolls around in the middle of the week because less attendance. Not trying to say anything, but the weekends when too many people have free time, they all tend to congregate in one place and it can easily turn a fun time into an overcrowded
Yep. And we've seen that with more than just conventions.
Our biggest thing was when we went skiing every year. We always tried to go during the week for that exact reason, because come the weekend, it would be packed. And then we'd have to wait in long lines for the lifts, and we wouldn't get as much fun in.
One of the reasons why at one point when I was given the opportunity to have a flexible schedule and I ended up having a schedule where I worked 3 10-hour days and 2 half days. And on those half days, I used to basically, the rule was I couldn't, I think,
Give me 2 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yep. But with a flexible schedule, having an afternoon during the week to go run errands where the lines aren't out the door is an amazing thing. And all right. And we've lost Darren. And I'm not even sure what to say anymore. And yeah. And well, all right. Da-da-da. Let's look up other conventions. And the real question is, and now, since Darren brought up Anime Raleigh, there's another convention the same weekend listed for Concord, North Carolina. And I'm wondering how far away that is. Because now you would think that there wouldn't be 2 conventions the same weekend in the same state. Interesting. And this one is multiple weekends. if anyone's actually heard anything about Ichiban Con in North Carolina, give us a heads up, because now I'm curious. Because I'm looking, just looking at a list of conventions scheduled for early next year. There's a bunch happening all over the place. And you got to wonder how many of these are just super small, that we've just so small that we've never heard of them. And how many of them are brand new post pandemic. Because I've never heard of a lot of these. And then you've got stuff like Toronto Comic-Con, Anime Boston, Fan Expo Philly, all the big ones. And then you've got all these smaller events. And there's in looking ahead at a convention schedule here, there's a convention called Cosplay America. For those interested, because we talk a lot about cosplay. There's a convention just for that in June in Cary, North Carolina. And I've never actually heard of this event. But it looks like there's just a lot. It looks like it's a lot of workshops and demos and sewing and just a convention dedicated to cosplay. Who knew? That's interesting. And then, okay. And then let's look. There are literally conventions all over the country, all over the world. Literally. You could literally go broke. A convention there's literally convention listed almost every weekend from January, and the dates go through the end of August into September for next year. And I've only heard of maybe a small amount of these. And this is just anime cons. Like, this doesn't even include like the more gaming centric conventions or the majority of the Comic Cons or any kind of generic pop culture events. or the video game events that are becoming that we're seeing more and more of these days. And but at this point, there really are conventions for everything these days. And I could go down this list and look up every single convention and how much and how all the details, and theoretically, if I wanted to travel that much, which not so much because I don't have that much money or time off. But and we still don't have a guest. Our guest has not made it. I hope everything is okay. But yeah. And looking at so unrelated, if you look, and Darren is back.
For the moment, I have a client that's rambling, so I'll be back as soon as I can. I just wanted to give you an update.
Fair enough. I've been rambling about nonsense. Changing gears, looking at one new thing for those of you who use My Anime List, it will actually tell you where the show is being aired, on what services. For example, if you look, the little icons, and it looks like and now the ones listed as being on Disney Plus, I wonder if those are actually being simulcast or not. One, we'll have to check that out. But you got the ones on Crunchy, Eminence and Shadow on High Dive. Apothecary Diaries is apparently on Netflix as well as Crunchyroll, which is interesting. Again, makes me wonder if Netflix has it on a delay. And then, now let's see. Let's do a quick scroll through.
Oi, sorry, I'm back.
Well, I
What?
I
What?
went down. I
What?
rambled.
I'm about to say, what rabbit hole are we going down this time?
If you look on my on the screen, my anime list, a new feature that I didn't notice. It shows you what sites it's streaming on.
Cool.
I thought so, because there's some on Disney Plus, and then the musing of with Disney Plus and Netflix, is it behind? Or is it simulcast? Because currently everything I'm watching is on Crunchy.
Everything I'm watching is all over the place.
Also, one of the rabbit holes I went down, apparently there's an Anime-Con in Concord, North Carolina, the same weekend as Anime Rally.
Really? And what con is that?
Where'd it go?
There's two other conventions we're known for that are not centered in Raleigh. Well, Fayetteville has a Comic-Con twice a year. But
Ichiban Con.
yes, Ichiban Con. Between that and Dragon Con, those are the two cons that we have down here that are decent, that are not the main ones at the convention center.
Ichiban is January 4th through 7. Anime Rally is 5 through 7. I thought that was interesting because who would do such a thing?
Yep. And I forget Ichiban's attendance, but I want to say it's right around the 10,000 or below mark.
Makes sense. But I basically pulled up a listing of, I just went down the rabbit hole of looking at a convention schedule for 2024. I wanted to see how many there were, and there's a lot. And John Knight has decided to join us. Welcome, John. How are you?
Hello. So their website is fairly newish, I guess.
But if you look up animecons.com.
Yep, they have one. They have them listed out throughout most of the U.S.
with some Canadian ones thrown in for good measure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of these that I have never heard of.
Well, we're back to the subject of, were there too many anime conventions at one point?
And the answer is probably.
Uh-huh.
That's right. Halloween is on Tuesday, so happy Halloween. Unfortunately, our special Halloween guest looks like they couldn't make it. C'est la vie.
So we just gonna have to get him at our next earliest convenience, or his next earliest convenience.
Yep.
Oh well, maybe we'll have Doug at the same time.
Indeed. And Doug's gonna listen to this and probably have comments.
Of course. But then again, don't you have comments when you listen to me and him?
Well, I didn't listen to last night.
Don't worry, we didn't say too much about you.
Then again, I'd expect nothing less.
Sure.
But on stupid tangents, your football team actually won a game today.
Oh wow, about time. I don't really follow football, but the fact that it only took till a quarter or a third of the season's over at this point.
Almost half.
Half. Already?
Yeah, we're on week 8.
Damn. Oh, that's right. They had a bye last week. I forgot.
Yep. But as it stands right now, I mean, they're still fighting for that number 1 draft pick, but they won a game.
Yay.
New England ain't doing much better, but
Well, I know my former boss is happy because he was all about his Chiefs. Because they've had a decent season so far, haven't they?
Kansas City's been doing well, but the big news there has been more about Taylor Swift than about the team.
Oh, speaking of which, I saw the stupidest thing while doing one of my customers' yards the other day.
Oh no.
There was a kid and what looked like his father going out on a walk in the neighborhood I was in. He had a flag that was designed like Donald Trump's flag, but it said Taylor Swift 2024.
All right.
And I'm just like, and he walked around the neighborhood holding that flag. And I'm just like, what has my generation come to?
It could be worse. It could be Kanye.
No comment. I mean, I can obviously think of worse choices, but at the same time, I'm just like,
I'm more making a joke that in the previous election, Kanye was serious with his attempt at running for president. But
hey.
But what has the moving on? 6 more days until Attack on Titan finally ends. In theory, can't wait to actually watch those.
It won't. I guarantee
know.
they're gonna find another way to draw it out.
I know. But yes, that is on my radar, John. Granted, what I'm probably going to have to do at this point is go back and watch at least the last couple episodes of the previous part of the final season because it's been so long. I don't remember.
To refresh your memory.
Exactly.
And I hate it when that happens. Like, I'll come off a series and I'll know everything, and then it'll take an episode or two, or I'll pull up the episode, I'll read the description, and it'll take me through halfway through the episode before I remember I already watched this episode.
I've done that too many times.
By the way, are you caught up on Goblin Slayer?
Yes, I am. So good.
I got 2 episodes in, so I'm a smidge behind on that one.
We watched, or episode 4 is out. 5 hasn't dropped yet.
Also, did you notice the slight change in the art from season 1 to season 2?
I did. It's
a little bit brighter, which I don't really like, but at the same time, it's close enough to the original that I can't really complain.
I thought it was just me.
No, the animation is the art is slightly different.
And I'd have to go back and look at some images from season 1, but it also looks like they changed Goblin Slayer's armor slightly.
I really hadn't paid attention to the armor.
However, that might just be I'm crazy.
No one's denying that. But I will say this: the one thing I didn't remember about him is I forgot how much he loves to throw away his weapons and replace them constantly.
Yep. You've encountered the redhead wizard.
Yeah, he's on his first quest.
Okay.
When I watched it, our priestess tried to do the quest and had to have Goblin Slayer take over. Then they ended up running down a mountain, getting chased by an avalanche, and that's as far as I got.
Okay. There's some.
And
There's
I know
a
that,
nice little.
and then
Go on.
there's the situation where him and Goblin Slayer are very similar, in a sense.
There's reasons for that. I'm not gonna spoil. There are some very nice Easter eggs if you remember season 1.
I remember most of season 1. The main thing from season 1 I remember is that Cowgirl is the best. Like, between her and the elf, I'd say they are my two favorite characters.
But no, Goblin Slayer is actually far better than I expected it to be.
It's a better Slayer anime than Demon Slayer.
And I enjoyed what I saw of Demon Slayer.
Well, the main thing with Goblin Slayer is if you can get past the first episode, you'll find the value in it. I saw a post earlier today from someone in an anime group that tried to watch Goblin Slayer and couldn't get past the first episode when it first aired. Well, they tried it again, and now they're like, "Oh my gosh, I made such a huge mistake! It is an amazing series."
And I wouldn't be surprised if the reason the first episode got so much pushback is because of other media that was airing when that first dropped.
Potentially, and also, of course, the situation around it.
Right. And John in the chat is saying how they're gonna watch tomorrow. Apparently, the new dub episode drops, and he's gonna watch it. And started watching Goblin Slayer back in 2019.
It's been 4 years.
I think so, actually, maybe longer.
Wow.
But I remember watching episode 1 as part of a social. One of my friends hosted a social let's watch all the new episode 1s night. Goblin Slayer was one of the ones that stood out. And I'd already heard all the rumors about episode 1 and all the pushback. It wasn't that bad. I get that it should have probably had a content warning label, which I don't believe it did.
I'm about to say no. When it originally aired, it definitely did not come with a warning label. I think they had to add that after the fact.
But it did not go into any kind of explicit detail, which I was expecting based on, media commentary, social media commentary. And then actually went and watched the entire season and loved it because it was everything I wanted from a good fantasy anime. It very much reminded me of collecting a D&D party.
Remind me, did you watch Interspecies Reviewers?
No, I have never seen it, and this comes up in multiple social groups. And everyone is surprised that I haven't seen it. And John in the chat says Goblin Slayer started 5 years ago, so 2018 sounds about right, if my math is correct.
I can't believe it's been that long. Where has the time
Same.
gone?
Well, we lost a year and a half to this thing called a pandemic.
Very true.
And that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, no, Goblin Slayer season 2 is living up to season 1. I did notice it was it was a little bit different. But keep watching. It's great.
Awesome.
The other, I don't remember the name of it, so I'm cheating and pulling up my anime list. There's it's listed on my anime list as an ONA. Netflix dropped all 12 it's a Netflix exclusive. All 12 episodes dropped at once. Good Night World. I watched episode 1. It's another MMO style anime. Very dark, listed as a fantasy. And episode 1 was actually pretty good.
Interesting.
But on my anime list, it's listed as drama, fantasy, psychological, and video game. And I do enjoy
every single thing lines up with your interests.
Exactly. Sometimes to my own detriment. Because I did finally finish Gene of AI from last season. That one was definitely out there. I don't know if I liked it. But the description and the tags, all very much right in my wheelhouse. But I'm not sure I would call it good. But that one gets into some morality stuff as well. And where the line of human is.
If you want that, there's 2 shows you need to check out. Watch Beatless and watch Plastic Memories.
I don't know.
Beatless was more intense for multiple reasons than Plastic Memories, but Plastic Memories just tugged at your heartstrings.
I'm the one that's a sucker for something well written.
And to be honest, Plastic Memories was more well written than Beatless. Beatless, you have a super AI that developed 4 humanoid AI robots. and it was an interesting series about AI versus AI.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I might actually enjoy that. From the chat directed at you, Darren, John says, "Who got you into Zombieland Saga, and is this a zombie?"
Myself. Is this a zombie? That was all me. I was browsing the interwebs at the time looking for anime. I was basically going through Funimation's entire list and came across it on my own. Zombieland Saga. We back when I used to do a lot of social media, we would always pick shows that we wanted to do pages for, and Zombieland Saga was one of the ones that I picked up on. So because it sounded interesting, so that's what I watched and enjoyed it. Just haven't watched season 2.
Because time or because
Because honestly, I forgot about it. Just like I didn't watch season 2 of Ancient Magus Bride. Forgot about it.
and that is why I have the My Anime List app on my phone, and why I actually track stuff as we're watching.
As do I, but I forget about them because I get so busy and go for periods of time without watching anime. And by the time I realize it's airing, oh wait, it's already middle of the season. A new season's about to start. Do I really have the time to go back and try to binge everything? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no.
Yep, I know how that goes all too well because that's been me. And we ended up literally watching half a season's worth of anime at once after we got back from Greece for that reason. And then we eventually finished season 2 of Gundam Witch from Mercury, and the ending of that was so good.
Good. Would you recommend it to someone trying to get into Gundam, or would you recommend the previous Gundams first?
It's not connect. It is not. It's a really good standalone Gundam. You can watch it without having seen any of the other ones.
Very nice.
If you're looking to get into the franchise, I don't know if that's where I'd start necessarily.
Okay. You know, it's kind of funny. Ross and me got into it last night. Are you familiar with the Science Adventure series?
The Science Adventure series?
Yep. They started as a visual novel.
No, I am not.
Chaos Head?
Nope.
Steins Gate?
I do know Steins Gate. I haven't. That's another one that's been on my watch list forever that I've not actually watched.
And Robotic Notes.
You guys have talked about that one to the point where I feel like I should go back and watch that one.
Well, those 3 are all taking place in the same universe. With Chaos Head being the first one. Ross was saying how he watched Chaos Head and Robotic Note, but he couldn't get into Steins Gate. And I'm like, how did you miss the second part of the series? They all literally take place in the same universe. You got Chaos Head, and then you got Steins Gate, which takes place shortly afterward, and then you got Robotic Notes, which takes place in the future. Ironically, I haven't seen Robotic Notes yet.
And as an added bonus, Steins Gate features voice actor J. Michael Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, John.
If I'm not mistaken, he was the main character, Hoin
Nope, Steins Gate was on my list. Never heard of Chaos Head.
Wow, and that aired back in 2011.
2011 was a period where I watched like no anime. I didn't start watching anime regularly until about 2013. That whole getting divorced, not having a permanent living situation, moving 4 times in less than 2 calendar years means I did more video gaming than anything else. But now it's basically a when I have time, I go back and I'll go down the rabbit hole of what is the Crunchyroll menu of what shows are on there. And then I'll put stuff on the watch list that interests me. And I'll eventually go back and finish watching everything. Really, yep. I mean it.
Maybe one day when we're retired and have nothing to do. So 30 years from now? 40 years from now?
Or when I inevitably show up at your front door the day before convention down in your neck of the woods.
I can deal with that. We just have a marathon day.
Exactly. Because because I assume you have Crunchyroll.
Plead the fifth.
Or if not, I'll log in as mine.
Yeah, that'll work.
I assume you've got functional internet and a TV screen.
Yep, that's all you need to know.
Which means then we can do a stay up for far too long watching anime.
Yep, sounds like a fun time. I tried to do the same with Doug, but unfortunately I had work and it was just bad timing in that regard. And of course he had to go. He couldn't stick around and lollygag. Otherwise I think Leanne would have killed him.
Entirely possible.
And then we would have been attending his funeral.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. Actually, poor little sad Anya.
You haven't seen Dragon Maid, have you?
I've seen Kobayashi's Dragon Maid?
Yes.
I've seen exactly one episode. It did not grab me in the slightest.
So you didn't get to meet what's her Tana. And some of the faces she made over the course of the series.
Nope. I know that's a big favorite. That was very, very popular. I watched one episode. It didn't grab me in the slightest. Granted, that might be one I could go back and try again, but when I've got a watch list that's way too long.
Yep.
And John in the chat is pointing out some of the wonderful voice actors in the dub of Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, including Sarah Weidenhaft. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
And then also, Christy Rothrock.
Of course.
Gotta
And
give her
Susan,
a shout out because she was awesome. Because Christy is awesome.
Yep, and I'm sorry I missed that convention.
If I remember correctly, it was during your super busy time.
Yep.
Because landscaping, summer, you get like 0 time off during the summer.
Yep. I would have to slam all my yards in a single week. And between that and Bojangles, slamming about 50, 60 yards solo in a week is not a fun thing to do.
No.
But yeah, what else are you watching this season that we need to know about?
I'm caught up with Goblin Slayer, caught up with Spy Family, caught up with Under Ninja, which is another weird one. I'm enjoying it, but it's weird.
Come on, it can't be weirder than Dora Hetero.
Never seen Dora Hetero, so can't make the comparison.
It's trippy as hell.
This is weird, but not necessarily trippy. Like it basically does a lot of time shifting.
Okay. So Steins Gate?
Didn't watch Steins Gate yet.
I know. I'm just saying though. Time shifting. Anytime you come up with a time travel anime that has to anything to do with time, Steins Gate's gonna get brought up.
It's not time travel. It's one of those. First, you're in real time. This is happening on this day, and then they flash back to a different day.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that, and then it just goes back and forth. John, to answer the question about that, my husband and I went through the season list before the season started, and that was one of the ones we agreed on. Because that's what we do every season these days, is we make a list, then compare, and then parse it down to manageable.
But the manageable part is boring. You need to fully immerse yourself if you're going to do it that way.
The season we watched, there was one season, I think we were watching 11 anime.
The most anime I've watched airing at once was like 20, 25.
And then the last one we're caught up on is Girl and Her Guard Dog. And Ross and I had been having a conversation about that.
Well, it sent Twitter into a frenzy, did it not?
I don't know. I try to avoid Twitter, or X as it's called now.
Well, most of us are still going to call it Twitter.
Well, yes. I try to avoid that. I'm not sure what specific thing sent Twitter into a frenzy, but
I'm pretty sure it was that one that it sent the anime community into a frenzy after the first episode because they were trying to call it. They were basically trying to label him as a pedophile, I think, because of the age difference.
Which makes perfect sense. Which, okay, yeah, I could see Twitter going nuts regarding that. That being said, nothing inappropriate has happened. That much is comedy.
To be honest, I wouldn't expect much of anything to happen. Much like I'm surprised they didn't go crazy over. Uh, let's see, what was it? I I grew a beard and brought home a high school girl, or I shaved my beard and brought home a high school girl.
I don't
Oh
know.
no, I shaved, not a beard. I shaved.
I don't know. Again, that might also get into the difference in cultural norms between Japan and here.
Potentially.
Because Japan is, I do not remember which one of the Japan vlogging YouTubers I follow actually talked about this, but due to population and whatnot, there's a lot of cases where older men are marrying younger women just because
Well,
that's what the population is.
yep. And on that note, also, the stigma in Japan is once a girl reaches into her late 20s, early 30s, she becomes way less desirable to most of the culture. So they'll actively seek the older men. Like it's
Yep.
a whole Asian stigma where once girls hit a certain age, that they lose desirability among the dating pool.
And those are things here in America that are just very different culturally.
Yep. Because around here, unfortunately, we have a society that literally don't care.
And it's also some people choose to get married arguably way too young. And some just don't get married until they're much older.
Yep.
If they get married at all.
Yep.
And here, there's and I just got a message from Doug. Apparently Manic Dan, who was supposed to be joining us tonight, got a little bit sick from his kids and could not join us tonight. Doug was on a break and could check his messages, and lo and behold, he got that message. And like we said, c'est la vie. Hope he's doing okay, and it's nothing super serious. He's just too sick to join us tonight. And
So running a show by ourselves is proving to be entertaining and somewhat productive.
yep. And John in the chat, yesterday was International Animation Day. That's awesome. And you're not caught up on anything?
Nope. The only thing I'm caught up with is the Eminence in Shadow.
Knowing is it actually worth me going back and watching?
Yes. You liked Overlord, right?
After the first episode?
Basically, you got a kid that spouts chuny boyo nonsense, but in the grand scheme of things, the bits he spouts actually are how the world is, and then the people that surround him eventually they kind of direct his way of thinking, much like the other beings, like Demiurge directs Ainz to an extent, and he just goes along with it. And all in all, it's a very interesting series.
All right.
So yes, I would at least, and don't get fooled by the first episode because the first episode takes place in the real world for him, and he doesn't get transported till toward the end of the first episode or the beginning of episode 2.
Overlord. I will say, Overlord episode 1 was
Slow.
It was every trope I can't stand. And John decided to share what he's caught up on. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Goblin Slayer Season 2, all dubs. Dr. Stone Season 3, current part, and Rising of the Shield Hero Season 3.
I really am disappointed I didn't continue Dr. Stone. That was a well-researched, well-thought-out anime. Very accurate scientific facts and processes were put in that show, which me and Doug also got on the topic of, with how accurate a lot of these animes and mangas are to real-life knowledge.
On that note, one that I found to be extremely accurate on the vein of science, Cells at Work.
Yes, very much so. And of course, the common conversation we always had of it being so accurate to the point where there were doctors that were reviewing the episodes and basically agreed with pretty much everything that went on. And also certain colleges using episodes in their classrooms.
Yep.
And then also, I remember one of my employees at work who watches anime saying that how heavy are the dumbbells you lift was the lady was an actual physical, was actually like a personal trainer or a dietary physician or something along those lines. So that's why they knew what they did and integrated it into that one.
Oh yeah, like I grew up watching gymnastics and figure skating. So when the animes came out, Yuri on Ice was actually very accurate to the figure skating industry. And what was the name? There was a gymnastics anime couple years ago. I do not remember the name of the show, but it actually was a good. It was really good slice of life, but focused on like a competitive gymnast, and actually very accurate to the sport as well. But yeah, it's really interesting these days to see how much effort goes into not only telling a good story, not only into the art, but the research and the accuracy of the content.
Exactly. I kind of went into this last night. Like the first 30-ish Pokemon, like the early ones of the original 150 Pokemon. Do you know where Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon, got his ideas for a lot of these things before they were put into art form?
No.
looking for bugs in the woods in his backyard.
That makes sense, actually. And
'Cause,
and
think of
hi, Ross. Ross has decided to join us. Hey guys, sorry, sick with allergies today. Was behind on chores. I'm better now. Sorry for being so late.
it's okay, he ain't this much. Just two nerds rambling on without shiny object syndrome.
We've actually, I feel like we've stayed on topic more tonight than we have in a long time.
Well, we ain't delved into music. We ain't delved into reality shows. We ain't delved into other
Out,
stuff.
outside
Our
of a
jobs.
outside of a single passing comment, we didn't get into sports outside of sports anime. But yeah, no. Now, is it just me? Now, one thought that crossed my mind when I was binging 2 weeks worth of anime this afternoon
Mm-hmm.
was that overall there's a lot more anime available these days, but not much of it is as good as some of the stuff from years prior.
And it's probably because the industry has become so oversaturated with content that animes have become very tropey, and it's very hard to come up with something original, thought provoking, and good nowadays that will really suck you into a show.
And last night the household caught up on Spy Family, and I'm going to pose the question to you and the chat. Have you seen the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Have I seen? No, I haven't. I haven't watched a lot of stuff.
Okay, this is a movie that came out quite some time ago, but we finished the last episode of Spy Family that was available and talking about it, and the comment got made that Spy Family is the relationship between Lloyd and Yor is very similar. Yes, Ross, that movie is very similar to that relationship.
Huh.
And Ross in the chat Ross in the chat also brought up the celebrity death that I forgot to bring up at the start. Matthew Perry. It was announced last night that he died.
Yep. And the night before that, I brought up the night before that, there was another celebrity death that I brought up last night. That has come up on the show as a conversation piece. Do you remember the name Richard Mall?
I feel like I should, but I don't.
Okay, think bailiff on Night Court.
Okay.
He passed away at 80.
Damn.
So now of the original cast of Night Court, the only ones remaining are John Larroquette, who was Dan Fielding, and I think Marshall Warfield, who played Roz, and I forget Mac's name, but I'm pretty sure he's still living as well. Unfortunately, we lost Harry first, and then lost Christine a couple of years ago.
And Ross in the chat points out that Richard Mall also did the voice of Two-Face from the Batman series.
Okay. Well, I'll say one thing about him. He was taller than me. He was 6'8", I think. The gentle giant, I guess you could call him.
Yeah, I have friends who are I have good friends who are that tall.
Oh, I'm 6'2".
One friend of mine that I used to do metal shows with is either 6'5" or 6'7", I forget which, and built like a linebacker.
Mm.
And for shows, and it was great because he made sure no one got in my space.
Oh, nice. Sorry, Ross. I could have swore it said 6'8". But I got several people at my work that are younger than me and taller than me. I have one kid, every time I stand beside him, I feel short. He's like 6'5".
Nah, I stand at 5'2" before the big shoes.
So in other words, I could rest my chin on your head.
Entirely possible. You try to do that, you will get jabbed.
Well, at least you're not like some of. I have one employee that's so short, I have tripped over her I don't know how many times.
That is a thing that happens. I'm usually by far the small one, and somehow I'm always the one in the way. In college, in the game room, in the gaming room, because it was too small for the amount of people, oftentimes I'd be sitting on the table because the table would support my weight. And close friends who had permission, if I got in the way, they would literally pick me up and put me on the other end of the table.
And I'm sure they paid the price afterwards.
Anyone who tried to touch me without permission got threatened. The people that I knew very well and trusted had permission. But it was college, and you know,
I never went to college in that regard, so I actually don't know.
I had a core group of really good friends that I trusted implicitly, and they knew, and everybody knew that if someone crossed a boundary without permission, they would get their ass beaten. And Ross is only a little bit taller than I am.
Wow. Now I feel like a giant despite being the youngest one here. To an extent.
It's all relative. One of my sisters is only 2 years younger than me, but is 6 feet tall.
Impressive.
So I've been the tiny one my entire life. So I just got used to it.
It's not like you can do anything except wear heels.
Exactly. But then again, I can get away with wearing giant shoes.
Very true.
And Ross says, Darren, you're older than I am. And
No, I'm not.
Ross says he's going to be 33 in a few months.
Ross, I'm 27.
And I'm older than all of you, since Doug's not here.
Okay, so
Okay.
I got John by almost 2.5 years.
You're not the baby of the chat. And Ross says you sound older.
Really? Well, if I ever show my face one day, please tell me what age I look, because a lot of people tell me I look like I'm in my young 20s.
Uh, I will actually. Appearance wise, I probably would have said about 25. Based on the picture you and Doug sent from when he was down there.
Oh, and Ross, I probably sound older because at the end of the night, I get tired. Therefore, my voice isn't as high. And then the internet changes my voice quite well. Any communication changes my voice quite a bit from how I sound in person. But I think that goes for all of us.
I was going to say on the phone, as a teenager, I got mistaken for a dude on more than one occasion.
Oh, in the drive-thru, I used to get mistaken for a girl all the time. They would be like, "Yes, ma'am." And my coworkers just they let me have it, and then it just became such a running gag that I don't even care anymore. So long as I get the order right, I don't care.
Yep.
They can call me all whatever they want.
Yep. When I was an assistant shift leader in my fast food days, I literally got called sir on more than one occasion, and then I just would every time I would just start laughing. And then there were nights when the on-duty manager was a dude, but personality-wise, far more feminine than I am by nature. So the running joke with that particular crew was that everything was gender backwards.
Mm.
But none of us really cared, and everyone we just all kind of give each other shit for stupid nonsense.
But isn't that how a fast food family always operates?
Exactly.
I mean, my employees threaten to meet me outside at 2:00 every day.
Exactly. There was this one kid I worked with 6 days a week for I think the better part of 2 years. It got to a point where because he lived close enough to walk, and one day it was downpouring, and he was just kind of sticking around because he didn't want to leave because the person that normally gives him a ride in the rain didn't show up. And I was like, dude, if you want to just wait until my shift is over, I'll give you a ride home. And he was so surprised because he's like, you would do that? Yeah.
Oh, I've had to bus around employees so many times I've lost count. It don't even matter anymore.
And then Ross in the chat is saying that something like that happened to him once in school. An old substitute teacher called him Rose instead of Ross on the attendance sheet.
I am so sorry, Bob Ross.
Ross, I'm having a little chuckle at that. I'm so sorry.
Could be worse. You could have been that thing from Comedy Central where the guy that couldn't pronounce names to save his life and then got mad when they tried to correct him. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Have you
But
heard about it?
I have. I feel like I've seen probably clips. But that is why, when I worked in a college mailroom for years, why I would always, if there was any question about how a name is pronounced, we would ask them so that we would get it right. And Ross says, you mean Crank Yankees? Crank Yankers?
No, it was. Hold on. Key and Peele.
Oh. I know Key and Peele. I've seen little snippets, effectively highlight clips.
I just sent you the.
Yeah, I'll watch that
After we get off the air.
after we get off the air in 10 minutes. Wow.
Where is this show gone?
To the archives. And Ross says his favorite Key and Peele is the football names roll call, and I believe that's the one that I've actually seen a lot of clips from. And yep. Shiny object syndrome indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Ross, are you actually caught up on anime for this week?
Because I done proven yet again that I'm not. I took a nap earlier today.
Because if you are caught up, I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. Because I know you were also watching Girl and Her Guard Dog. And Ross says, yep, got too much time on my hands after work.
But yet, so no drinks after work for you?
But then we'd be wasting away again in Margaritaville.
Waiting on my lost shaker of salt. No, searching for my lost shaker of salt.
All right. I wasn't going to do this.
Oh, Lord.
Nope. Welcome to what happened. Welcome to what happens when I get tired. Are you familiar with Darren? You're a youngin. You're significant. You're younger enough than me. Are you familiar with a genre of music that we call yacht rock?
Not really. I mean, if you give me song titles as an example, I would probably tell you whether I know them or not. But as far as the category itself, not so much.
It's very basically Jimmy Buffett falls under that category.
Well, I've heard him played on both rock stations and country stations, so
Fair enough. And
there's actually several artists. This new and upcoming one, Jelly Roll, has been played on both.
I don't know that one. There's some classic rock that I know also gets played on the country stations. Stuff like Leonard Skinner or
Of course.
there's
Sweet
an
Home Alabama is definitely one of them.
Yep. And there's another.
There's another one, but Travis Tritt did the. There's a couple ones where Lone Star and Travis Tritt did the country versions.
Lone Star also had a very popular pop song when I was in college. And that was the only song I knew by them, so I didn't realize they were country for years.
Lone Star covered Walking in Memphis. Lone Star covered which one am I thinking of? I want to say it was Aerosmith's one of Aerosmith's songs.
But it's who's the this is gonna bug me now because I don't remember. Because there's a whole like the era of Leonard Skinner, there's other artists where it falls under where it gets labeled as classic rock, but it's also borderline country.
Would help me here. Would Nickelback fall in that category?
Nickelback is its own.
Just asking because they kind of had a country tone to them.
I don't know. That one's you could debate. But yeah, much. And I think we are proving that. I think all we're doing is proving that with media as a whole, regardless of what format, the genre definitions, one, are very subjective, and two, lines get blurred all the time. To bring that back around full circle to end to kind of start wrapping up.
Okay. Here's which one was I thinking of by Lone Star? Lone Star.
I don't know.
Walking in Memphis, yes. Wait.
The one song I knew by them for the longest time was Amazed.
Yep. I'm already there.
I don't know.
Mr. Mom. Oh my God.
John Knight says, I'm already there.
Yep.
But
now, I feel like they did another one.
On Ross, I'm not gonna read that. I'm not gonna read that comment because that would be a spoiler.
Good. I'm glad I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm not gonna read the comment out loud and just kind of laugh. And But yes, Ross, I too am completely caught up with my shows for the week. On that lovely note, do we have any last good night, Ross? Any final things we want to end on? Because we don't really have a shameless plug, anything.
Yeah, except come spread the word to your friends that we like to talk anime and everything else.
Yeah. And for those, yeah, follow us on social media, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, spread the word. And in the meantime, be healthy, watch anime, be safe out there, and I'll see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.